And so began another orientation. This time, believe me, I listened. I was all eyes and ears.
It's been a staple of science fiction and spy movies for decades. People using their eyes, ears, and fingerprints as a source of authentication. In the last 2 years, we have seen a significant increase in the number of devices and companies using biometric authentication. Instead of typing in a password, many smartphones and computers now let you turn them on with a swipe of your finger. India's Yes Bank recently unveiled an ATM machine which scans your iris. In the U.S., Bank of America allows fingerprint authentication to log on to its mobile banking app. In Canada, TD Bank uses voice recognition to identify users over the phone. And recently, MasterCard began rolling out Selfie Pay, which allows users to authenticate online payments by using their face at the point of sale. In this podcast, we will examine some of the issues, both positive and negative, associated with the use of biometrics. The word biometric comes from the Greek words bio, meaning life, and metric, which means to measure. The premise of biometric authentication is that everyone can be identified by his or her physical or behavioral traits. Physical characteristics are things like the shape or composition of your body, and it includes your fingerprints, DNA, your face, hand, retina, or ear. Behavioral characteristics are related to the pattern of your behavior, such as your typing rhythm, your walking gait, gestures, and voice. Certain biometric identifiers, such as monitoring your keystrokes or how quickly or slowly you walk in real time, can be used to provide continuous authentication instead of a single one-off authentication check. The driving force behind biometric verification is convenience. There are no passwords to remember or security tokens to carry. Measuring someone's stride as they walk doesn't even require contact with the person. They won't even know you're doing it. Biometric devices, such as fingerprint readers, consist of 3 different components. First, there's a reader or scanning device. Then, software that converts all the scanned information into a digital form and compares the matching points. Finally, you'll need a database that stores the biometric data for comparison. The presence of high-quality cameras, microphones, and fingerprint readers on many of today's mobile devices means biometrics is likely to become a common method for authenticating users. But, like any new technology, there are many unanswered questions. For example, while the quality of biometric readers is improving all the time, they still produce false negatives and false positives. It's not clear what the legal implication of a mistake will be. One problem with fingerprints is that people inadvertently leave their fingerprints on many surfaces they touch, and it's fairly easy to copy them and create a replica in silicon. People also leave DNA, such as hair strands and skin cells, everywhere they go, and someone's voice is easily captured. Dynamic biometrics, such as hand gestures and facial expressions, change, but they can also be captured by high-definition cameras and copied. In addition, whatever biometric is being measured, if the measurement data is exposed at any point during the authentication process, there is always the possibility it can be intercepted by creative hackers. If someone steals a fingerprint or a retinal scan, they can steal a person's identity, and, unlike a password or a physical token, the victim cannot simply replace the stolen information with new data. This is not a hypothetical. In September 2016, the U.S. Office of Personnel Management announced that fingerprint data belonging to nearly 6 million Americans was compromised in a cyber attack. The OPM has said it believes, as of now, none of the data has been misused. But it also noted that that could change over time as technology evolves. An interagency group made up of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is currently studying the ways that hackers can use biometric data. Given the serious implications of compromising customer data, organizations that use biometrics should carefully consider how biometric data is stored and who within the organization will have access to it. The fewer people with access to customer biometric data, the better. Organizations should also consider what appropriate level of protection they use for their biometric applications and data. Taking these steps is not only prudent protection of biometric data, but is also evidence that a company can point to in the event of litigation when arguing that they were not negligent in storing and protecting private personal information. This is especially important because right now there is no case law in the European Union, Canada, or the United States about biometric data. The legal implications of using biometric data remain uncertain. One of the biggest unanswered questions is what remedy does a consumer have if their biometric data is stolen? Generally, the law attempts to put a person in the position they would have been in if they had not been injured. But if your fingerprint is stolen, you really cannot grow a new one. Some jurisdictions have passed laws creating statutory right of actions for consumers. For instance, Illinois' Biometric Information Privacy Act allows for a private right of action that could expose businesses to possible civil liability. Texas has a statutory provision that addresses biometric data, but only the Texas Attorney General can bring a lawsuit to enforce the statute and collect the civil penalties. On May 16, 2017, Washington State Governor Jay Inslee signed into law House Bill 1493, which regulates the collection, retention, and use of biometric identifiers. Similar to other biometric legislation, the law in Washington does not allow a business or a person to enroll biometric identifiers in a database without first providing notice and obtaining a consumer's consent. Biometric bills are pending in Alaska, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. Swiss Re will continue to monitor developments in this very interesting area, as the future will very likely bring issues that Maxwell Smart and Captain Kirk never had to deal with. Thank you for listening.